Hello, everyone. I'm trying something new here. It's so difficult, I have to say. I received the feedback after my first video um, to look, instead of looking in my eyes, which when you're watching the video, it gives a downcast look, to look a little higher. So it's interesting because there used to be so much self consciousness here to look at myself. I hated it, and now it's I don't know. I don't know if that has changed. Certainly, self consciousness has dropped a lot, but it's like I want to look at myself. I feel like at least I'm looking at someone when I'm talking instead of just looking at the camera or just a little lower. Anyways, I'm trying something new. I'm just not that I practice these, but I guess I think a little bit about what I would like to say. And it can be in the middle of the night sometimes. But although when I turn the recorder on and I start talking, of course, it's not going to be exactly how I not practiced it, but thought about it previously. So I'm just going to, turn on the recorder and see what comes out of my mouth. Although I did have the thought that I would like to talk about how there is the ability now to see everyone's innocence. And I mean everyone. No one is left out, and my own. And as I say that, maybe with uh, myself or what is going on here, maybe the vastness is not as I don't know, uh, all encompassing. Although it's certainly not like it was before, where just, oh my goodness, I felt like, unworthy, not good enough, even insignificant, actually. But because the separate self, the belief in the separate self has dissolved, well, there's nothing personal, really. I mean, there might be traces of it, but there's no one here to feel not worthy or good enough. And as I say, I mean, there are moments where that arises, but it doesn't stay for very long. And so the ability to see everyone's innocence uh, stems from the realization that we didn't choose any of this. I mean, there's the I'm going to call it a belief that before crossing the veil, we chose our parents, and I used to believe that, and it might still be, that might be true, it might be the reality. I'm not sure. After Right after the awakening, everything was, a lot of it was black and white, and now there's more of a gray area, and I just call it a beautiful silver lining. It's all gray, it's unknown. Not knowing is, you're just open to anything, so it's wonderful. It's like just this great open space for anything to arise. And if it resonates, it resonates. And so, okay, back to, I do that. I go off on a tangent and then I forget what I was talking about. So, seeing everyone's innocence. So, whether we chose it before, it was chosen before. So, that means we're not a victim because it was decided. We okayed the deal. We're coming in this form, whether that is true or not. Um, there was no, because even if we chose it, we're asleep to that knowing. Um, I mean, did I? So here I'm a female born to these parents in this country. So with that culture in that society, with these siblings, and on and on. So at and so you're born into this family, and you grow up and your parents tell you these things, and so you there's a program that is set in. You buy into these beliefs and these thoughts and these stories, and this is what you are. And then at a very young age, it appears that the idea of the separate self is instilled, which is apparently energetically there's a contraction that happens, and that is apparently the most painful moment in a human being's lifetime, because if we look at very young children, they're just so free. And if I think of my grandchildren when they were toddlers, before at one point they started using the pronoun I to point to themselves, but before that they would use their names because that's what, well, they believed their name was. And so they would say, so and so is thirsty, or so and so is sad. And then at one point, maybe around two or three, it was, I'm sad. So I don't know if that's when the belief in the separate self is instilled, but there's that energetic contraction. And then a programming sets in, and we grow up with that. And then we go to school and we have these teachers who tell us these stories and how life is. And so at what point do we choose any of it? Because one moment unfolds into the next and the next. And so I'm looking at that time here because it's a concept in this experience, and it is used. And even though I know it's not real, it's an illusion, I use it too. Tomorrow, and I have an agenda, and I'll write things down. Excuse me, knowing that it's just a concept. So where, we think where we decide and we choose, and there are appearances of choices. If I go to the restaurant, I'm going to choose, to have the poutine instead of the salad, or but every moment before that led to that moment. And so, but that is how it is for everyone. And what I pointed to, I think it was in my first video, if I were to, that expression, walk a mile in someone's shoes, if I were to trade places with anyone, and so the programming would be unique to that form. And I say person. Yes, there are no separate individuals, but we call each other persons. Um, and so if I were to have, if life would have been manifested in, my experience would be in another form, a form, say, of someone that commits a crime. Would I have been able to act differently? No, because everything would have led to that. And I mean, we can tell a story about that. There's confusion, they're broken, there's a lack of love, insanity. I mean, whatever the story is, but the reality is that no one can act or choose or outside of the experience of the unique form that is what represents who they are, which is really just life manifesting as all of this. And when something happens, a tragedy takes place, like I'm thinking of the shooting in Las Vegas. It's not that it's not heartbreaking here. It just thinking about it, I'm becoming emotional, of course, and it's hard. It's hard to watch, but there is the inability here to exclude anyone, even the perpetrator that took the gun and shot everyone. Because if I leave anyone outside of my embracement, or the love that I feel, or the comfort, the nurturing, or whatever the word is that I want to give, that's where the suffering comes in, because there is no separation anywhere. The expression, we're all in this together. Well, we are, whether we like it or not, or we see it or not, or we want to believe it. Oneness arising as the world of forms, as everything. Why? I do not know. I mean, life is mysterious, it's unknown, and I'm okay with that. And there's just something very miraculous. You know, I have a love for the word God. To me, all of this is God. You know, God as God, life, love. It's all the same word. So God, to me, those are synonymous. And God arising as all of this. So you can call it love, and love manifesting as unique um, forms, as unique human beings, to have a relationship with itself. I mean, God arising as human beings that don't believe in God, and it's all good. Um, you know, I see it as there's, you know, I'm looking at my world from my point of view, from my experience, and everything I talked about earlier, from how I was raised and all of that, and um, and I love my world, and I see it as my job to love everyone and everything. And there was a time, just I don't know, last year, after the realization was, I felt like the whole world is like right here. Um, and there's no, I'm not separate from any of it, and I'm carrying the world in my heart, and I take that job seriously, as much as in the end it's not the eternal. There's just my job is to pour love into this world. That's what I see as my job, and not to add any more hate or separation or segregation. Or and it doesn't, I'm not implying that I never had a prejudiced thought that arose, or that even resonated, and that's painful for me to think about, but it's the truth. My daughter reminded me the other day how someone that, we were actually at a funeral, and someone made a prejudiced comment, and she said, "Remember, Mom, you said something. You said it very nicely or lovingly, but you said something." And I vaguely remembered, and I thought, great. I love to hear that, and I know it's not the only time that I did that in my life, and that's okay. It needed to be expressed, and today there's just this fierce love about all of that, where no, I'm not going to tolerate it in the sense that, of course, other people have a right to their expression and their opinion, and judgments and all of that, but I will share, if it doesn't resonate here, and if I find it hurtful, I will say something, and hopefully as lovingly as possible. But that there's no guarantee about any of that, is there? No one can predict what the next moment will look like. And so that's what I wanted to share in this video, just to point to everyone's innocence. And it doesn't mean that the perpetrator, well, in Las Vegas, I believe he shot himself, he killed himself. But anyone that commits a crime, well, it's not a free for all. They're not going to be. They will be incarcerated. If they're caught and all of that. And of course, that's part of society. But liberation comes from seeing everyone's innocence, even anyone sitting in jail accused of a crime, whether that is murder or anything else. Because the thought of not being able to love like that, love everyone, it's too painful. And I can't do it. I am unable to do that. And I am eternally grateful for that, deeply, deeply grateful. And that love, I mean, I'm feeling it right now. It's like a surging of love. And if I talk about it too much, tears come. I don't think there is a day that does not go by that I don't shed tears. And they're not tears of sadness. I call them tears of love. And I am very grateful for that. I wouldn't have it any other way. And so I send you a lot of love. I love every single one of you, whether we have met or not. And I wish you a great day. Thank you. Bye bye.